Hello and welcome back. In this video, it's another Bram interview. Bram has many passions. There's the DJ passion, there's his passion for coffee, his passion for wine, and one of his other passions is about a Russian four-wheel drive, a Lada. Back in 2020, he went to Gisborne in just north of Melbourne, northwest, and picked up this Lada and drove it home. And so in this video, first you're going to see my brief, terrifying experience of a test drive and then some shots of him using his vehicle over in South Australia, and then we'll cut to the interview which we did when I was over there recently.
Hello.
Hello, tell us all about it.
Where do I start? Well, so I just say hello. Strauss voice.
That's it. You like the
always reclining seat.
Yeah.
The headline is good. That's not fallen down. The brake light, manually operated. It's like a manual transmission. It's for enthusiasts only.
And the optional radio.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Inside the car, just so you know what you're driving. The vents are blocked so it doesn't flood the inside of the car when it rains. The sticker on the back window is interesting.
Taking my life into my hands here. Okay, I'm not sure about this. This is a bit of a worry. Oh God, here we go.
It doesn't like to drive slow. It only, I barely got any throttle on right now. Yeah. That's a good laugh. And the shifting reminds me of the Freightliner of John's. God, that track is scary. $1991, made in, well, I don't know if it was all made in Soviet Czechoslovakia, but that is where it originates from, one of the factories in Czechoslovakia. I don't know whether it was the Czech Republic side or the Slovakian side anymore, but whatever, we're here now. It's one of, as far as I know, 200-ish utes that were ever made in this body style, that were specifically sent to Australia. Australia and New Zealand had an agreement with the Soviet Union. We were selling them, food products, and they were sending us these, and I think selling them at a loss to pay it off, or something along those lines. It was some kind of loan they had to pay off. But yeah, that's how we got these here. There are other Lada utes, but they weren't. They were like built. Like New Zealand has them, but they were like a custom job in New Zealand, and I think Canada had a couple, but this was more or less the only one that was actually made from factory like this. All the other utes are based on the 5-door Lada. So yeah, it's but yeah, that's what the nitty-gritty details.
And
but
when did you get it?
I got it in June 2020 for
Right.
$1,200 and drove it back from
Hang on, 2024.
2020.
Yeah, that's
and,
right. Yeah,
and got
2020.
it for
Okay.
1,200. Drove it back from, was it Gisborne?
Oh, wow.
I think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember
I
you
think it
picking
was
up.
somewhere around
That's
Gisborne.
right, yeah.
And of course, that's before I'd done any work on it. So the brakes were, yep. And it had a button for the brake light. There was no brake light switch, so I had to manually hold it down when I was slowing down. But of course, I had to take my hand off it to change down gears. But since then, it doesn't look like it. But there has been a bit of work done.
Yeah. So let us list all the stuff you've done.
Yeah, so we've got obviously drum brakes are done. It's going to be a bit hard to see, but the panhard rod and the trailing arms in the rear have been replaced with brand new ones because the bushings were stuffed, but it was easier to just buy complete new rods with new bushings.
Yep.
And then I've got all the front suspension out of it currently. That I am not putting the bushings in myself. I'm paying someone else to do that because I didn't want to do it. And also new wheel bearings because I think I broke the front right wheel bearings when I was getting the rotor off, and it just wouldn't come off, and I was probably hitting it a bit too hard with a mallet. But anyway, we've got new bearings on the way. But yeah, so the whole front end's going to be new bushings because the bushings were almost non-existent at the point that they were at. I might also be putting in new axles and new wheel hubs. I've got, these are pretty much they don't look it now because I've been sitting out, but these are pretty much brand new brake rotors. So
Yep.
that, plus I'm also going to get ARB springs for it with a 20-30 mil lift. And yeah, and some Old Man Emu shocks.
Oh wow!
That you used to have on yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. That's compatible with that 20-30 mil lift, but they're actually not. The springs are for a Lada, but the shocks are from a D22 Navara on the front and a Pajero on the rear, I think. Yeah, just one of the guys on the Lada Facebook knew someone who worked in the engineering team at OME and figured out what would work on it. So, yeah, once I've paid the probably big bill for the bushings and bearing job, I'll be saving up for the suspension. Yes, let me pop the bonnet. I can talk about what I've done under there. Oh, and of course the light part on the front now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if you come down around this side, you're going to need this light. So what I've got in here, I've just put in a completely brand new clutch slave cylinder because it cost almost nothing, so why not? All I actually needed to replace was the hose, but yeah, I was like, well, I'm doing the hose, I'll just grab a completely new clutch slave and put that in because it's $20. You know, that's how this car goes. Things are so cheap. You just
Ryko hose?
No, it'd be something unpronounceable.
Okay.
And then so I've got the steering idler here, which was the bushings in the idler they just evaporated basically as soon as I took the thing off. Like they just disintegrated. But yeah, with the play on the steering was. You could go from here to here without actually putting any steering input in.
Yeah,
that's how bad it was.
Yep.
So that's got a brand new shaft. I've cleaned out the whole housing and new bushings as well now, so it should be mint, which is good because these are one of the few parts you can't actually get because it's right-hand drive specific.
Right.
And pretty much every other Lada in existence is left-hand drive.
Right.
So that's a part that often goes and you really can't get new ones for. And the only new ones you could get were custom ones that were made in Russia. which you obviously cannot get now.
You might have to make them yourself.
Yeah, well, hopefully that rebuild did the job. But yeah, that's pretty much. Oh yeah, and of course the light bar on the front. I wanted this behind the grille because I kind of want to keep it looking like an old car, and these here just looked awful in my opinion. So this sits behind the grille and actually puts out a fair bit of light between the slats in the grille.
Good idea.
And yeah, this was just some random steel that Ty had kicking around. Just cut it up to fit it in here. Just really, sort of dodgily welded the brackets on there. I had to like set them in, so I put a bolt through it and then welded the bolt onto the bracket to hold the bracket a bit further back. But that's just what it took to get them to sit at this position. And yeah, I'm going to put some LED globes in because the incandescents are terrible, and my alternator is only a 42 amp alternator, so I need to save power wherever I can until I get a beefier alternator in there. And I'm probably going to put a dual battery setup in there as well.
Is this 12 volt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah.
And I also need to get a crank handle for it as well. Apparently, you can chop up a Mondeo spare tire jack. You can just trim it a little bit, and it will work as a crank start for this. But ideally, I just have a dual battery setup that I can start off before I need to be using.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I've got a car with a crank handle, I want to crank it just once so I can. Because when am I ever going to be able to do that again? But yeah, no. When we once this sort of stuff is done, really what needs to be done is just all the fluids. I haven't serviced it, like I haven't done a proper service on it, so any fluid, all the filters, wheel alignment, and then they're the main drivetrain things done, more or less. I'm sure I've forgotten something in there, but they're the essential drivetrain things that need to be done. So the physical items are almost complete. Then I just need to do all the fluids.
What about things like the body, like you're going to repaint it, and what about inside the cabin and that?
It really needs sound. I really need a sound deaden in the interior because this thing's so loud it gives me a headache to drive. I think I used to have earplugs hanging off the rear view mirror because I couldn't drive without them in. So I mean, you can see I started to try ripping this stuff up, which is impossible, so I'm going to have to do this with dry ice and isopropyl alcohol and scrape it off. But that's a job I want to avoid doing for as long as possible because it sucks. And then yes, the other rather obvious thing is the rust. So the A-pillars, I've done this a couple times, just trying to slow it down. But I just need to cut this out. You can actually buy these sections of sheet metal brand new. I can also get sills brand new. I'll probably do that for the A-pillars. I'll probably just get a patch piece for the A-pillars because it's a complex shape. The sills I'll probably, on the other side, I'll probably just weld in a bit of sheet metal because it's not a very complex shape. Yeah, it's really the A-pillars. So
do you think you will eventually repaint the whole thing?
Currently I don't want to. I kind of want this sort of patinaed look to it. You know, it looks like it's got a story.
Yeah, I get it. I'm with you. Yeah.
And you know, if I've got an old car, I kind of want it to feel like an old car.
Yeah. Okay. No, I get it.
I'll think about it. What I might do is actually just clear coat this, so to just stop it from getting worse. After I've done the required rust repair, because the main rust is here in the tray. So like around the shock towers here, this is your, you know, this is the concerning part really. The A-pillar and this are the most concerning structural rust. Thankfully though, this tray is actually 2 layers, and when I was doing suspension work underneath, the second layer underneath, there's nothing wrong with it. I just need to rip this top layer off, and I'm probably going to, instead of replacing it with a sheet, I'm probably going to put in some flat square steel and like brace up the thing, and then just do like a wooden cover over the top. Probably easier than getting a massive bit of sheet metal this size and cutting it out and then welding in every little seam.